Reporting from Arkham Asylum, this is Gotham Rogues. In this video we take a look at the Batman the Animated Series episode, Read My Lips. In my previous TAS video, I asked you all to cast your votes on which episodes I should do next, and here we have the results. As you can see, a lot of episodes received the same amount of votes, which put me in a bit of a predicament. Eventually I just decided to put them in this appropriate order that you see on the screen. It's based on which characters I've talked about a lot already versus ones I haven't really done much with. By the way, I didn't include any episodes that only received one vote, because there were just too many of them. After I've covered all of these episodes in this order, we'll do another vote. So don't worry, your favorite episode will eventually get the spotlight. Anyway, let's get into the review. Read My Lips is the introduction of the Ventriloquist and Scarface on Batman the Animated Series. The episode was written by Alan Burnett, Michael Reeves, and Joe R. Lansdale, and was directed by Boyd Kirkland. In it, there's a new gang in Gotham City who starts a massive crime wave, naturally attracting the attention of Batman. By tailing one of the gang's members, the mountain of muscle known as Rhino, the Dark Knight is able to track down their hideout. There he discovers that their mysterious leader is in fact a ventriloquist dummy called Scarface. The ventriloquist himself is a meek, submissive coward, while the doll is a controlling and loudmouthed bully. Turns out that this ventriloquist suffers from a split personality, and his other self, an abrasive criminal mastermind, has manifested itself in the form of the dummy. Has the Batman met his most bizarre foe yet? At the time when this episode was made, Ventriloquist and Scarface were fairly new characters and hadn't really appeared that much in the comics. Not counting cameos, they had only been featured in two stories, both by Alan Grant and Norm Breyfogle, one in 1988 and one in 92. I can definitely understand why Bruce Timm and company chose to adapt this duo though, as they're just perfect for the tone and style of the show. It's kind of interesting that the ventriloquist still hadn't been named Arnold Wesker in the comics, so that's why he goes unnamed in this episode as well. The character hadn't really been all that fleshed out yet in the comics, and I actually like his portrayal in this episode more. Arnold Wesker just wasn't all that sympathetic in the source material, and seemed perfectly fine going along with Scarface's evil deeds. In Read My Lips though, and even more so in later episodes, Arnold is really an innocent man who's forced into criminal acts by this dummy. Like Scarface himself says, the ventriloquist is a real dummy in their relationship. The psychology of Arnold Wesker is just absolutely fascinating. In this episode, there are no hints at anything supernatural going on with Scarface, like him actually being alive. They did that later in the comics, but not here, so it's all in Wesker's mind. Now you guys know Two-Face is my favorite villain, but I have to admit that Arnold's case of split personality is even more interesting than Harvey's. I mean, this is a guy who's completely bullied by his other personality. He doesn't even seem to understand that he's mentally ill. Instead, Arnold genuinely believes Scarface is alive. He is so deeply disturbed that the doll is like a completely separate entity. There's a scene at the end where Batman tricks Scarface into believing that the ventriloquist is a squealer. Enraged, the doll points his Tommy gun at Wesker and tries to kill him. Just think about that for a second. Scarface tries to kill Wesker. He tries to kill himself without even getting it. That's how insane this guy is, and that is some absolutely fascinating shit. Now, I'm no psychoanalyst, but I guess you could say that Arnold has extremely low self-esteem, and that Scarface is the type of guy he'd really like to be, tough and assertive. It's only through the dummy that he's actually able to be this person. This would also explain why Scarface is so cruel towards Arnold and treats him like a doormat, because that's how Wesker sees himself, a pathetic weakling. So Scarface also functions as a conduit for the ventriloquist's self-hatred. Some people think that this duo is a pair of really silly villains. I can understand that, but just like with Baby Doll, they're kinda missing the point. The thing with odd characters like these is taking something cute and funny and just turning it on its head, creating something really bizarre. Like Alfred says to Bruce in the episode, "You've had your share of odd opponents, but this one does take the biscuit." Bruce himself also seems to be completely shocked when he first encounters the duo. You know I love the bizarre and you know I love film noir, but what I love even more is when you combine these two, and that's the ventriloquist and Scarface and this episode. I've always loved Read My Lips, but I've never really realized just how much until now. It definitely belongs in my top 10 list of TAS episodes. Besides the amazing nature of the villain, the episode overall is a great film noir detective story with awesome moments throughout. Like one scene early on where Batman almost gives Commissioner Gordon a heart attack when he enters his office unnoticed and then suddenly steps out of the shadows. Of course, right after that, Batman pulls his trademark disappearing act on Gordon too. Sometimes I get the feeling Bruce thinks it's fun to play around with old Jim like that, the sadistic bastard. I also really like Scarface's mooks. They're like something straight out of a James Cagney movie. Rhino, the big brute in particular, is interesting. The episode doesn't explore him or anything, but he kinda stands out among supervillain henchmen. He's pretty dim-witted and seems almost innocent in a way, like a child. It appears as if Rhino genuinely believes that Scarface is alive and treats the dummy as if he was the real boss of the gang. Sure, the other mugs does that too, but they seem to do it mainly out of fear. Rhino was a character from the comics as well, and I've always felt that he made the Ventriloquist and Scarface into an even more interesting team of villains. George Sunda voiced both Wesker and Scarface, and he does an absolutely amazing job. He's great at doing the meek voice of the ventriloquist. It's kind of how I always imagine the character sounds, but he truly shines as Scarface, of course. I just love the way the dummy talks, with that 1940s New York accent, using tons of old gangster slang. I'd say this is the greatest voice work in the entire series, in terms of entertainment value, that is. It may be blasphemy, but I'm gonna say it anyway. George Sunda's Scarface even outmatches Mark Hamill's Joker. Surely there can be no higher level of praise. In conclusion, Read My Lips is one of the prime examples of just how superior Batman the Animated Series was to other Saturday morning cartoons. The writing, the themes, the dialogue, the voice acting, the score, the visual style, just everything. It certainly is one of the crowning jewels of the show. So there you have it, that's Read My Lips. Next up on Batman TAS Reviews, we'll be taking a look at the episode Bane, so stay tuned for that. And remember, Arkham Asylum awaits you in the next video.